welcome to this week's episode of FTN TV, also known as Car Chats with Carly because I exist only in my car. I missed last week, and last week I was going to talk about how to fit genealogy into your busy life, and then I missed making the video because my life was too busy, which I thought was very funny and kind of ironic. Randomly, my kids got, of all things, scarlet fever. So my kids have had scarlet fever, and it's very 1800s of them. You could have knocked me over when the ER said that's what they had. I didn't know people still got scarlet fever. Anyways, they're on the mend. It's almost out of our house, but it wiped us out for a week. So instead of doing that last week, I'm going to talk about it this week. And this week's topic was how to protect your mental health when you're doing genealogy. So I've gone ahead and bumped that up, and that's going to be the top 5 quick tips that we do before we talk about the other. So everything's getting covered, it's just kind of getting squished in. I don't have a lot of genealogy news from other people because I've been in my own little sick tent bubble. I do have genealogy news for myself. I completed SLIG. That was great. SLIG has a new director, Amberly. I can't remember Amberly's last name. Sweet Amberly. Amberly has been the director and she's been amazing. And now Francine Griffiths is going to be the new director and she's also amazing. SLIG is in very good hands, and the upcoming classes for SLIG are like, I don't know how people are ever going to be able to pick which one they want to take. So that was great. There was lots of love in the closing banquet, online Zoom call thing for SLIG. Roots Tech is coming up really fast. My Roots Tech giveaway finished. Congratulations to the winner. I don't know, I'm sure that the news has been coming out about stuff at Roots Tech and I just haven't been paying attention. I have been doing my own genealogy. I got some great records by emailing the Wyoming Historical Society. They got right back to me with 3 different documents, super fast. I'm going to be using them again and sending them a thank you card because they're doing amazing work. I also have been on eBay a little bit. Every now and then I go on to get new props and things like that for my business. And I did buy a couple of genealogies. People just don't know what to do with family history work. I'm sure a lot of people just throw it away, and sometimes they'll eBay it. And every now and then I'll pick it up. And here's a video of me picking up the one that I got today. I just got this package in the mail. It's something I ordered off of eBay. Every now and then it's not even every now and then, I see people's genealogies on eBay all the time, and every now and then I buy them. Sometimes to use for my business as props, and sometimes just because it kind of breaks my heart that this is where people's genealogy ends up. I just opened this. I haven't even looked through it. What does that say? May genealogy. But yeah, people, this is what happens is people save their stuff for years and years and years, and they don't know what to do with it. They don't make a plan, or there's no one to pass it on to. And then, it ends up on eBay because nobody knows what to do with it. So I'll have to see what's in this file. But look at this. This is a lot of love and work, and somehow it's ended up with me. Okay, so the top 5 list that we're going to do today is how to protect your mental health when you're doing genealogy. There are lots of reasons for wanting to protect. You should be protecting your mental health all the time, but in genealogy, because you're dealing with family and family relationships, I think tender feelings can come up really quickly because you might have feelings of grief or loss if the people that you're talking about are no longer here. You may have negative feelings related to things that happened in your prior relationship or your relationship with this person. If it was a rough relationship, if it's somebody that you didn't have much of a relationship with and you have feelings of regret about that, that can be tender. It can also be tender talking to living relatives, especially talking to them about people who have passed, because people have different memories and different relationships. And there are sometimes I've run into people who just don't even want me to do family history. They don't want things to be brought up, or people who want you to record things in a certain way or talk about things in a certain way or have certain things be really important. And it's tough. It can just get dicey really quickly. And then there's also just the internal feelings that can come up from genealogy. Maybe you feel overwhelmed and out of control because you don't know how to get your stuff organized. Maybe you feel a sense of urgency because you feel like there's not enough time for you to do what you want to do with your family history. Maybe you're frustrated because you don't know who to pass it on to. All of those feelings can be heavy and they can be toxic if you carry them around for too long. So I wanted to do 5 tips on how to help you manage that. The first tip, my number 1 tip for mental health. Oh, and this is, I have to cushion this and say I'm not a mental health professional. This is just the 5 things that have worked for me. The number 1 thing that really works for me is to surround myself with good people. I feel like no matter what the problem is in my life, surrounding myself with good people is my thing. I'm an introvert. I'm not super social. So I don't mean, going out and being in a crowd of people, but finding people to listen to me, to talk things through, people who I know will answer me with support, with love, people who will hold space for me no matter what emotions I'm showing up with. It's important to make sure that you have those people in your life, especially when you're trying to counterbalance against people in your life who may be adding more to your stress instead of taking it away. I think surrounding yourself with good people is the absolute best thing that you can do for your mental health. And if you're not sure who that is in your life, I would encourage you either to refresh some relationships that have served you like that in the past, or maybe look out into the larger genealogy community, because there are really good people in the genealogy community who are doing the same kind of work, who have a listening ear, who are very kind, who have the answers that you're looking for. I am very grateful for my genealogy friends. So that's my number one tip. The second tip that I would say to help with your mental health, I think this is like a universal tip. This is almost the first place that everyone goes, and that is to step away. But I would say, okay, step away physically, get out, get away from the desk, get away from the table, take a walk. Let's say that you just got, a distressing email, or you had a distressing phone call, or you were doing research and you found something distressing, whether that was something that your ancestor did that you didn't like, or you thought that they did something and it turns out that that story is not true. Walk away, physically walk away, get up, walk outside, get some air, take a breath. Moving your body always does wonders for your brain. And also make sure that you step away emotionally if you can, especially if this is an ancestor and this happened a while ago. I feel like sometimes events are just really upsetting. It's hard to read about terrible things happening to our family or terrible things that our family have done, but it's important to emotionally remind yourself, you are not them. This is the past. You may be here to witness, to tell the story, to bring it forward in a constructive way. You also have the power in doing your family history to not include everything. So you don't have to, you're under no obligation to absolutely, put all dirty laundry out for everybody in the world to see. So, you have control over that. But sometimes it's important to put that emotional space in, that this can be your family and your family tree, but it's not you. It's not happening today. Feel that space. The number 3 thing, make sure that you're taking care of your body when you're doing this kind of work. I have a shirt that says Midnight Genealogist. I am terrible about starting genealogy at 8 o'clock at night because my kids have gone down and I'm like, I'm going to make a cup of tea and do genealogy for a couple of hours. And then around 2:30 or 3, I realized that I have been crouched in one position this far away from my computer, that my eyes are totally bleary, that I have to get up in 3 hours to start my day, that, my back is cracking 9,000 times as I try to sit up because I've been hunched over. Genealogy is weirdly hard on your body if you weren't thinking about it. So make sure that you're getting enough sleep, that you're not just mindlessly snacking on junk, that you're hydrating, that you're making sure that you look away from the computer, that you're using blue light glasses if you've got them. Just don't be like me. Do as I say, not as I do. Number 4, if you do have to have conversations with living relatives, with people who either maybe they don't share your research goals, or you guys just, don't necessarily agree on the best way to move forward or the best way to talk about something, or whether or not something should be researched, I think it's always important to listen. People want to feel heard, but there's a point. There's a point where I am all about protecting boundaries, setting kind boundaries with love if possible, and then protecting them. Because if something's not going to work for you, if you do not want to continue a conversation, if you do not want to continue a research path, if you can't have contact for a little while, if you need a break from somebody, it's perfectly fine to set a boundary. Set it with love if you can. If you have to set it without love, then that's the way it is. Boundaries are self-love. They're not offensive to the other person. They can be frustrating for somebody, but setting boundary is just a different way of actually protecting yourself and protecting the relationship by, if the relationship's at a point where continuing to talk to each other is just going to make you or both of you upset, setting a boundary could be the best thing that you can do for your relationship with somebody, even if it's a permanent boundary. So yeah, don't forget about your boundaries. I think sometimes people have a hard time with them, but I am all about the boundary. And then my last tip, my number 5 tip, coming from me, not a professional, is if you find yourself really struggling with feelings of anything, anxiety, overwhelm, grief, genealogy can really bring up a lot of grief, especially if you're going over details of someone's life that you miss and you wish you could talk to them about it or show them something or things like that, this can be really heavy feelings and too hard to untangle by yourself. And that's what I'm going to encourage you to actually find a professional and talk to them. I think people sometimes wait until they're a complete tragedy, until like they've got limbs that have fallen off before they're willing to talk to somebody. But there are people out there who can help you unpack things and can help you work through big feelings and hold space for you in a different way. I talk to somebody professionally. She's a huge help for me. I don't just talk to her about genealogy, but stuff like that has come up. And I really appreciate the fact that even though I have a circle of friends, I've got the genealogy community, I have all of these people that are huge helps to me in my life, that there is this, neutral third party professional situation where it really, this space is about like making sure that I'm being taken care of and that my needs are met, and that can feel really important. So I would encourage you to explore that option if you're in a place where you're just like, once genealogy stops feeling joyful because things get too heavy, then you should fix it, because genealogy is the best. Okay, as for the main part of this video, we're going to be talking about how to fit genealogy into your busy life. First, we have to recognize that sometimes it's not going to happen. Sometimes you're going to have 3 kids who have scarlet fever, and it just is what it is, and that's not the week for genealogy. And that can be really frustrating, especially if you have things planned or it's the week after SLIG and you really had a lot of work to do. Have grace, be gentle with yourself. If your schedule, you just have to be realistic. And then if you're trying to figure out, well, how am I ever going to get stuff done? I've got this to do, this to do, this to do. Really, being realistic is very important. You can't spend money you don't have. You can't spend time you don't have. If you're thinking that you absolutely don't have any time, I would challenge you to track your time for a couple of days if you can. Just sort of be aware of where you're spending time. You might have little blips of downtime that you don't realize that you have. But if you really want to do your genealogy and you have goals that you'd like to hit and they're important to you, I would do whatever you can to build time in. So there are a couple of things that I do to build time in to my schedule for doing genealogy. On the one hand, I'm spoiled because genealogy is, for all intents and purposes, 80% of my job. But doing my own genealogy actually isn't a huge part of my job. I spend a lot of time doing customer service, helping people out with things, putting things together so that I can teach. And sometimes doing my own genealogy feels a little indulgent, especially if I'm not doing something that I can also film, so it turns into a teaching moment. If I'm just going down the rabbit hole of research and there's nothing to share with anybody and it really is my time, then I'll beat myself up about it because I'm thinking, well, you could be using this time better. But I have goals, and genealogy is the thing that I do in my free time for me. It's my fun and recreation, my bit of play that my brain gets to have that's different than like playing with my kids or, going out and being social with girlfriends and things like that. Genealogy is the thing that I do just for me. So I schedule some genealogy time in. Now, granted, it's the first thing to be cannibalized. If something like scarlet fever shows up, then I will say, okay, well, then I guess I can't have my Friday night genealogy time. But I have a couple of evenings and some time on the weekend that that's not a night for my husband and I to watch a movie or anything like that. And I really protect that time, and it's my downtime, and that's when I do genealogy. Another thing that I do is I sometimes will do little hacks. Like if I look at where I'm spending time in my life, the nights that I'm doing genealogy also happen to be the nights that my husband and kids order food in, so that I'm not cooking and then I'm not cleaning the kitchen and all of that is freed up, and I meal prep so I can just grab something out of the fridge and eat while I'm at my desk. And that's a quick hack. I can't do that all the time. I could, but it would be weird if I just never saw my family again and never cooked again because I needed to do genealogy every evening and they just lived off of McDonald's. But that's a hack that gets me one night a week. Another hack is that sometimes I will combine it and make it social. This is a little tough for me. What I mean by make it social is get together with friends and work on your family history together. The tough thing about that is that I will often find myself teaching in that position. So then I'm like helping them with their family history, which is really fun, but I don't actually get as much of my stuff done. But we've had little like scanning parties where we just get together and we toss a movie on, or we just talk, and we each bring like a box and a portable scanner, because scanning is one of those things you can sit and do while you're watching a movie or something, but it's kind of fun. Getting high school friends together, and we all brought like our high school things, and then we scanned them. But then we were also there to be like, oh, do you remember this Valentine? Do you remember this photo? Look at this one. And we were able to share the digital files with each other and things like that. So that was like a fun moment. You could do that with family. But yeah, genealogy doesn't have to be a solo event. If you have a family history library, you could set a date and meet a friend there and, work parallel on your own things, or maybe take turns, and 1 week you'll tackle one of your brick walls, the next week you'll tackle one of their brick walls. And that can be sort of a 2 birds with 1 stone. It's genealogy time, but it's also you being social, getting out there, feeding into a relationship that may be important to you. Just another creative way to approach it. The biggest thing is that when you're trying to fit genealogy into your busy life, whenever I feel super overwhelmed and I feel bad about how indulgent it is, I actually remind myself that like, it's not just about the fact that I love genealogy and it's relaxing to sit at my desk and work, which I do think sometimes as a busy mom, the idea that I'm just doing something for myself is really hard, because it feels like, not that I'm not allowed, but that I'm taking something away from my husband and my kids if I'm not spending the time with them. But in the grander scheme, I feel passionately about family history. I feel really passionately about getting my family history done, about completing as much of it as I can while a lot of my relatives are still living, and that I want to get it done well. I also feel really passionate. I mean, this is hard it's my business, but I feel really passionate about learning more about family history and doing these videos and teaching and things like that, because I'm hoping that for at least one person, that I'm the person that makes the difference about whether or not they preserve their family history, so that their family history doesn't end up in a manila folder on eBay for somebody to find. And, it's so sad when people put those listings up and it's like, genealogy collection, and then it always says something like junk journal collage, because that's what people are buying these things for. They're buying them so that they can paper mache them onto balloons and make art that nobody wants to look at. That breaks my heart. So I'm hoping that by doing all of this, that I'm going to get at least one person to put something together that is passed down for generations. And that goal is really important to me, and I can make time in my life for the things that are important to me. I just sometimes need to get creative, and granted, it's a lot easier when nobody has scarlet fever. So anyway, I just hope that this helped a little bit. I mean, there might be some of you out there who are like, I have plenty of time. This was a waste of my time. In which case, thank you for spending some of your plenty of time with me. It's always good to talk to you. And yeah, we're going to get more on a schedule pretty soon. No live Q&A this week. I didn't do one last week either because we were in scarlet fever land. And then this week I'm actually going to be gone, because I'm doing recordings for the Family Tree Notebooks Masterclass. Enrollment opens on March 1st. The enrollment opens on March 1st and closes on March 10th, or when it sells out. I don't know if you guys remember, those of you who are around for a while, the first time I opened up a course, I had a 10-day sales window, and I opened it up and it sold out in 20 minutes. And I was I still remember how stressed out I was. I was so stressed out, and I added some more seats. I think I ended up doubling the size of the class, but it just wouldn't stop selling out. And I was so panicky about it, which was dumb because I had a seat because it was my course. But yes, it was very stressful. I'm kind of hoping that doesn't happen again. It's always nice to feel the love, but I really don't. I hate it when people are like, oh, I just got home from work and got your email and the course is already sold out. That being said, the courses, they can't hold a million bazillion people. So yeah, but there's nobody on a wait list. I'm not doing a wait list. It just opens on March 1st and we'll see what we see. Anyway, that's where I'm going to be on Friday. That's why there's no live Q&A. But I will do another episode of Family Tree Notebooks TV next week. And we might be able to do a Q&A next week. I got to see what's on the schedule. I also, I'm taking my son on a little mini genealogy trip later this month. So that's going to be exciting, and I will have stuff to share from that with you. That'll be a good one. So anyway, have a wonderful week, and I will talk to you soon.